Bill works at MEC. I also work at MEC as a co-worker of mine, and I see him riding into work, and he rides everywhere basically. And I was amazed at how some of the weather he rides in that, and so I thought it'd be great to have him come here and talk to you about winter riding. Yeah.
Excellent.
Woo! Thanks, Trevor. So this is my first time here too. It's pretty impressive. It's once I found it, it's pretty neat. It's a great opportunity to come in and learn from these guys how to fix a bike, because once you learn how to fix it, it's actually simpler than you think. And once you do it a couple of times, especially if you have the right tools, it just makes all the difference. And it's kind of fun playing up with your own bike. As Trevor said, my name is Bill Wheeler. I work at MEC. That's where Trevor met me and decided he'd like me to come and give a talk. I've commuted in this town for about 35 years now. My bike has been my major mode of transportation. We have a car and all that jazz, but I tend to like the bike. And I usually miss maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 14 or 15 days through the winter because of really inclement weather, and we'll talk about what that means per year. But other than that, I'm on my bike. Even to the point where I have a little trailer now, and I don't know if I should say it properly, but people call it my homeless look, because I have my little trailer and I'll go shopping at the grocery store. And I actually get a kick out of that, because you walk into a Costco with your bike helmet under your arm and you buy a whole bunch of stuff and they're looking at you like you're really strange. So my history on a bike in London specifically is pretty extensive. If people have questions or want to know other stuff that we don't touch on, feel free to ask me. And I'd like you guys to give your comments too, because I'm not a professional at this. I'm just going to kind of give you what I find is important, specifically about winter cycling, which is what they've asked me to talk about today. I was hoping it'd be cold today. I wanted to come all dressed up for winter cycling.
Yeah, Bill was hoping for a big dump of snow.
I'm sweating like a pig because I wanted this to be kind of, I wanted to come and just show you people, hey, you can ride in minus 15-degree weather in a snowstorm. However, I'd like to break it out in a couple of different places. I think first of all, the bike that you're going to ride, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about clothing and safety, which is going to be kind of combined, and maybe a little bit about, you know, how I choose my routes and what I do differently in the wintertime than I do in the summertime. And there is a difference, and it really depends on the weather. You're going to find that the more you ride, the more you get comfortable with how you want to dress, with the route you're going to take, the extra time it's going to take, or whether or not to use a bus ticket that's in your back pocket, because sometimes that's the way to go. And if the guys in the shop that want to talk about bikes and stuff too, you know, jump in, because I'm not the expert on bikes. When I ride in the summer, I ride on a road bike, so skinny tires. I like to go fast. I wreck my bike. The guys at the bike shop like me because I spend lots of money in there. I'm going to have to start coming in here and learning how to do it. The wintertime I switch. So I get out the beater bike. And the beater bike is a bike, you know, if I have to throw it out in the springtime, I'm not going to cry very much. It's a bike that's as basic as you're going to get. It's going to have the wide tires for sure and knobby, so I get away from the skinny 700 tires on my road bike. I actually went to, this one has disc brakes. I actually like the caliper brakes in the wintertime because I can kind of clean them and I can move them around a little bit. So I don't know, this will be my first time with disc brakes in the wintertime. That'll be kind of interesting. I don't know if there's comments on it.
Justin?
Disc brakes?
Comments on brakes in the winter?
Disc brakes are better. I once rode through a puddle that soaked both the brakes and the bottom bracket, which is the spindle that goes between your cranks. It was submerged. Kept riding through. At the very end of it, I needed to make a turn. The brakes worked like they did before I went through the puddle. So
okay.
That much better than rim brakes.
Okay, so if you can get a bike with rim brakes, that's great. I might have to trade this guy in. But you just want a bike that, like I call it a beater bike. It's a bike that, you know, you like and you're riding and it's good for you, but the purpose of this bike for me is to get me through until about April. I just want something that I can clean off. I'm not going to be terribly worried about it. The pieces on it aren't really sort of top notch, but it's good enough to get me. My commute is about 14 or 15 kilometers each way per day. So I'm riding at quite a distance, and I just want something that's going to be dependable. Things you're going to find when you ride in the winter, brakes, whether they're the rim brakes or they're the disc brakes, at some point in time you're going to find that they're not working right. Really important first thing in the morning when you get out and you try your bike is try the brakes, make sure they're not super frozen, that you can stop, because you're going to find that a lot. And you're also going to find that the derailleur loads up with stuff and you're not going to be able to shift gears. So a lot of the time you'll start out riding your bike and you might have a couple, 3 or 4 different gears, but you're going to find out that that's going to freeze up or get all slushed up, and you're probably only going to have 1 or 2 gears or maybe only 1 gear. So at that point in time you say, you know, what's the gear that's going to get me up the hills? What's the gear that's going to allow me to pedal the easiest? And you figure out how to get into that. Whether you just, a lot of times you can just come in and just sort of move it around a little bit, and that's going to loosen it up a little bit. The same thing with the rim brakes that I used to have. You'd just be able to work the cables a little bit. My bike doesn't go inside in the wintertime, so it's outside all the time. So that's another issue. If you bring your bike inside, it's probably good because all this stuff is going to work when you take it out in the morning. The bad thing is that there's going to be a ton of salt on it, and that's going to corrode the bike a whole lot quicker. So if you take your bike inside, you're going to want to clean it off, make sure that the chain doesn't get all corroded and everything doesn't get all corroded, the cables especially. If you leave it outside, you're not so worried about the corrosion because at really low temperatures, the salt's not going to affect your bike. What you're going to worry about is everything freezing up before you get on it and ride it in the morning. So really important when either when you're inside or outside, especially if it's outside in the morning, you come out, you try the different brakes. I shouldn't say this, but every once in a while I'll come out and, you know, the back brake's frozen, but okay, I still got a front brake, and I'm going to be happy with that because I'm going to ride knowing that, hey, I just have this one front brake.
Can I ask
sure.
make a comment? I heard, like, I've never really ridden in the winter.
Yeah.
I tried in Montreal and I slipped on some black ice and destroyed my derailleur, and I was like, anyway. But I heard that you should brake with the back brake only. It's safer.
Yeah, it is for sure. The back brake's safe because that's controlling, that'll slow you down a lot easier rather than a jumpy front brake. But in the winter time, the way that you ride is so different than the way you ride in the summertime. In the summertime, you just go. In the wintertime, you're thinking, hey, I just want to get to work safely without sliding down and hurting myself. So if I just have one brake, like everything is gentle, everything is slowing down, you're looking ahead, you're being really careful. When you approach an intersection, you're really careful. In the wintertime, drivers are crazy, and that's another, we'll maybe talk about that a little bit when we get to safety. We're jumping all over the place. But people, especially in the morning, they go out to their car, they start up and they drive away. The windows are frosted over, the windows are fogging up. They have no idea what they can't see stuff. So in the wintertime, I'm super careful. And we'll kind of talk about that when we get to routes. So approaching intersections, approaching sections where I know it's going to be slushy. Bus bays are terrible because the bus goes in, and where the road might be clear, the buses created all sorts of debris and stuff where it pulls in and pulls out. So you learn to be really careful of those. So yeah, typically you're going to use the back brake to stop most often. But on instances like this, you're really careful and you're just taking precautions all the time. So to stop with just the front brake, it wouldn't be an issue in my case, the way that I'm riding that bike.
But disc brakes don't freeze up in the wintertime as like rim brakes do.
Okay.
So,
but the cable will.
the cable, but the hydraulic they don't.
Yeah.
Okay. So one other thing about the derailleurs that Bill was talking about. So you can mitigate that somewhat. You can see how this bike has incomplete housing. It has no housing here. So this gets wet and water drips down into this, and that's what causes the freezing of the cable. Same as up here. Before the winter, you can if you know how to do it, you can replace it with a full-length cable, and that'll help somewhat in keeping the water out of the.
So even as a full repair, that replacing that full cable with housing is probably $10.
$10, yeah. The parts.
So a fairly inexpensive fix. You just said something that I was going to think about. Another thing that I really changed in the wintertime, whether or not you guys do or not, is I go to a platform pedal. A lot of time in the summertime, I have the clip-ons. Feels totally secure. It's the best way to pedal. In the winter, I just go to a platform pedal. I'm not worried about speed. I'm not worried about efficiency. I'm worried about safety. So if I come to some place, I get myself in trouble. I don't want to have to think about the unclip, which you don't typically think about that, but you don't want your foot stuck on a cleat. At least I don't. So I'll just wear just a regular boot with a platform pedal. To me, that's the safest way to use a bike. Any questions on bikes? Do people? Oh, that was a wave, not a hand up?
No.
Okay.
Maybe just a comment about what I found in riding in wet conditions with a rim brake is what I find is you almost need to wipe the surface once it's wet.
Yes.
So the wheel needs to almost do a full rotation
Yeah.
before it'll actually bite. So if that's something you're doing, you want to be cognizant of that. It's going to take longer, like most things in the winter, and the wet takes longer. But that's why part of why it takes longer is you actually need to wipe the whole surface so that your wheel is going to make a full turn, and by the time it does, that's when it's going to start to bite. Whereas in the dry conditions, it'll bite right away.
So all, again, part of knowing the conditions you're riding in, how your bike's going to react to it, and riding based on those circumstances. So what was explained there was just that when you first put on your brake in the wet with the caliper brakes, you're just going to scoot along without much braking. And then, you know, in 6 or 7 feet, then it's going to start to grab and start to slow you down. Really important, you stay in control all the time in the wintertime. Because it's, when you get out of control, you just can't react. I've had one fall this winter already that was on Wednesday. The streets were icy, and on an icy street, as long as you're staying up straight and going straight and not trying to accelerate, your bike's pretty stable. It's when you start to make a corner or you try and go up over a curb that you know you're going to get in trouble. So silly Bill said, you know, I'm just going to cut up onto the sidewalk here. And as soon as I saw where I was going, I said, I'm in trouble. You couldn't stop, so down you go and you fall. Like, that was my fault because I wasn't thinking when I did it. Normally I would have just gone straight, stopped, maybe just got off the bike and turned it, or just made sure I was on a dry spot to turn. But if you're aware of your circumstances, that's really the most important thing when you're riding.
I have a question about this door.
Sure.
This is my first year, and I find if I go over lumps of ice or something like that, it wiggles the bike.
Yep.
Now, I haven't fallen yet, and I have 4 rows of spikes.
Yes.
So, is it just going to make me wobble, or I guess it depends on the size of the ice. I mean, if it's the size of my fist, it makes me wobble and I don't go down.
Yeah.
Is that normal, or is it going to bite me sometime?
It's going to bite you at some point in time. Like you just don't know. Like, you can ride the same route over the same stuff, and then just whatever maybe you were just turning a little bit, or who knows what it's going to be. But if you're super careful, like I typically won't go over very many chunks of ice. The fact that you have the spikes in the tire, or the cleats in the tire, that makes a big difference. And I have it on my front. I just put it on just to show it. I haven't put my spikes on yet. But what you'll find in the wintertime when you're riding the bike, especially on an icy street, which I'll try and explain how you can maybe stay off it. On an icy, your bike goes straight. As long as it's going straight, it's pretty stable. But what happens is your bike, you have this route that you're going, your bike will start to drift. Without the studs in the tire, it's tough to sort of turn back and get into that. So what'll happen with me a lot of times, if I don't have the studs in, you're taking your track, you start to drift, and you just let it drift until you get to the curve, and then you straighten it off. You stop, you straighten it off, and then you get back on your track, and you hope you keep your track. With the studs, you're able to get back on. So I'm trying to stay away from any sort of crunkly snow. I'm trying to stay away from any ice at all when I'm riding a bike without the studs.
You don't know what Bill's talking about studded tires? Have you seen, everybody knows them? I've seen them. You can buy tires that have studs on them. They're real studs.
So there's little studs on the side.
Oh, yeah.
This one just has it on the side. So when I turn it, they're going to grab onto that ice and they're going to let me turn. Whereas if you don't have that, chances are your bike's just going to slide right out.
So there's tires that have 2 rows of studs, and they're kind of on the outside, and there's some that have 4 rows of studs, and so they'll be sort of on the middle and on the outside. And there's some that are quite expensive. They're like about $130 a tire. They're made out of tungsten carbide. It's a very hard metal that they don't wear out.
They're 105 at max.
105? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Couple
The tungsten carbide ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I think they are.
No,
The Ice Spiker ones are 145.
the Ice Spiker Pro is about 135. Yeah.
If you have a
So,
fat
but
bike, you can pay
they're worth it.
$250
They'll last you
for
more than 1 season. They'll last you several seasons, I think. So if you're planning on commuting a lot and want to be really safe with your traction and stuff like that, they're well worth it. The 2 rows of tire studs are about $65 to $69 per tire.
They make a heck of a difference on anything on ice. Like I say, all of a sudden it allows you to steer rather than having the road go where it wants you to go, as opposed to you deciding, hey, I want to correct my turn. I want to turn a little bit and I don't want to slide out. The biggest problem that you're going to get is just sheer ice. Because your bike is just gonna, every once in a while, it's just gonna slide. I tell people it's kind of cool. It's really nice that it's slippery when it's really cold, because you've got like 8 layers on, so that when your bike does lay down, it sometimes doesn't hurt as much. And actually what happens in some cases is, like, you'll be on the ground before you even know it. The bike just disappears. You're riding along and you do something and poof, you're on the ground and you're going like, what happened to my bike? It just flies out. But it really is important to be careful. You are going to fall once in a while, I suspect. But hopefully from some of the things you talk about today, we'll learn how to maybe sort of avoid as many of those falls as we can. I'm going to talk a little bit about what to wear. I hope people were kind of expecting that as well. I sort of came dressed to, I told somebody earlier, I was hoping it was like minus 15 in a blizzard. Like, it really would have been fun to come and just show, hey, yeah, you can ride in this stuff. People talk about when you dress, they talk about layers. Really important when you're biking, because when you bike, it's going to be colder than it is outside, and your nose is going to be cold, your fingers are going to be cold, your toes are going to be cold. But even those things, you go in layers. So I don't know how to show this. So what you want, first of all, is a really good pair of rain pants, really beat up, rolled rain pants that are going to go over everything. And you're going to wear those every day for the next year, for sure. You can tell mine are all ripped. These are dirty because I trail run in them as well, and I was trail running this morning. But these people have not seen me on a bike, not in these pants, in I don't know how many years. They go on over everything. They're a rain pant. They're protection for me. It's just something that you're going to really want. That's probably my most valuable piece of equipment are these guys. And then what happens, sorry, I do have stuff on under this. Again, it's layer. Everything's layered. So I've got another pair of track pants, or those might be your work pants, whatever you go in. If it's super cold, I'm going to have 3 or 4 layers under here. I'm going to have my underwear. I'm going to have some biking shorts. Biking shorts I'll wear not because I need the padding on this particular bike, but they're nice and warm around the waist. These pants, and then my outer layer here, I'm going to be protected against everything. So always think layers. You can always put on another layer and stay warm. So the same thing on my feet. Again, toes are one area that's going to get super cold. So I'll wear one long pair of sock, another pair of sock. I didn't need this today, but so I'll just wear like my first layer of sock, and that's the wicking layer. That gets rid of the moisture. It's the same thing as we think about for our upper body and everything else. So my wicking layer, my warmth layer, I'll wear a winterproof or a waterproof boot most of the time in the winter. If it's really cold, I'll get out an actual snow boot. Again, with my platform pedals, I can wear whatever boot I want. And another thing that's just really awesome, even if your boots are waterproof, are these sort of these boot covers. Again, you can see I've just about worn these guys out, so I'll need another pair. These are great in the summertime in the wet. They're great in the springtime, but really good in the wintertime, because not only is the wet you're worried about the cold, and this becomes your windproof layer. And it makes a big difference. The difference between wearing this thing and this thing with the cover on it in the wintertime is crazy. Like there's no way I can ride my bike on a minus 15 day in this boot. Minus 15 with this little plastic cover over the top, I can do it without any problem. So think layers all the way up, right from your feet, your legs, the body. Probably everybody knows about layering, but layering means, you know, a base layer. So this is my warmest base layer, which I'm sweating in today. I didn't really need it, but this is a really warm base layer. So it's thick, it gives me, and this wicks away the moisture, keeps me warm. Once I have that on, then I'll put on a warmth layer or two. In this case, I just wear a little coat like this, which, like, this would do me till probably any day we've had today, or this year so far, so -5. So I'll throw on a warmth layer, and then I throw on the windproof, waterproof coat. Again, I used to have a yellow windproof, waterproof coat that I had for probably 10 years, and everybody knew me as, you know, the guy with the yellow coat. So it was kind of cool, but again, I just wear it everywhere. If I don't need any of this stuff, it's just a t-shirt, this thing goes over the top. If I need the warmth, then I'll wear layers like this, and I've been known to wear another hoodie under this, or maybe another hoodie or two under this coat here, and away I go. I guess just as easily you could just put on a great big bulky coat, but my whole idea, my whole procedure is I just layer up. I get up in the morning or at nighttime, I look at what the temperature is going to be, which is probably the most important thing. Like look at the night before what you're going to put on, or you'll chicken out or you'll dress wrong. But I'll look at the temperature and say, hey, I need all these layers, and I'll just lay them out and I just put them on. If it's a little colder than I thought, then I'll just throw on another layer, but it's all about layering. Same thing for the head. If I'm going out just on a day like today, then I just wear a toque. So that's great. But balaclavas are awesome things. So if you can get something like this, you'll love it. Most of the time I just wear it around my neck. Because if any place is going to get super cold on me, it's just in here. It's just sort of underneath the neck and underneath the chin and around here. So I'll just tuck this in. So this just goes in underneath my shirt. And that's the way I'll wear that most of the time. My toque and my hat, and I'm good. Super cold days, then this comes up, or this comes up, and all of a sudden everything's so much warmer. A little bit of Vaseline on the cheeks sometimes is good too. But a little balaclava like this, I really like this one because it's loose, and I've chewed this. This thing's 15 years old too. It's kind of gross, but then that's the other thing. It's not a fashion show when you're out there. Like, don't worry. like if you think you're going to be looking good, I don't know.
You're always looking good, Bill.
No.
You should see Craig.
What's that?
Craig looks like the biking fashion
Just
guy.
wear a vest like that was a big deal.
Yeah, some people actually do look good. Like there is one of the guys that works at 3M or at MEC gets all dressed up. He's got the nice pants and the nice shirt, and not me. But yeah, and you don't care about that. It's comfort versus fashion. So something like this really does help. And then you think, well, is my helmet going to fit over it? Your helmet's going to fit over it. So you have an adjustable helmet, and that's going to fit over that. The other nice thing is if you have a coat with a hood in the wintertime, especially if the snow's coming down, just a little peak, you might have a visor on your helmet, but I don't. So then, I'll ride like that. And people go, hey, I never thought about putting the hood underneath the helmet. But this is great, because now all of a sudden your eyes are shielded, everything looks good, you've got really good visibility. So depending on the weather, like that's going to be kind of what I'm going to do with my head. Hands, same thing. I'm going to layer my hands. So these are the little dollar store mitts. These are the best things ever. These are your liner mitts. So this is your base layer for your hands. These things, like forget the $15 gloves at MEC. I hate to say that, but just having a bunch of pair of these around is great, and get a bunch because you're going to wear out the fingers and all that sort of stuff. But having a little pair of gloves like this is great because they are really going to help. So I'll use gloves occasionally, like this would, and again I'll double up like that. So that'll be what I go with.
What are the gloves made of? Are they cotton or are they wiggly?
These little guys are cotton. These guys are now sort of a synthetic and a plastic material or leather. And one better than gloves always is mitts. So mitts are always going to be better than gloves. So in the wintertime, I'm usually dressed up like this. And then there's another thing, you can put what are called pogies on your handlebars. These are little covers that cover all your gearing, and you just put your hand in here and you control your stuff. So I'd stay away from this in really cold weather, but in the wintertime, for the month of December, I would use these. And
why would you stay away from them in the cold?
Because I'm going to want to wear my big heavy mitt anyways, and my big heavy mitt is tough to get into these. So these are easy to access if you have like a glove on or something like this. So against rain or snow or sort of different conditions and wind, this is really going to, I'd be able to ride like this for till -2 or 3. But then once it gets colder than that, I'm going to want to put on my mitten. And these are cumbersome to get your mitten into. You can get one in, and now you're trying to fiddle with this one, and I don't fiddle very much. So
it's hard to get them out too once you're in.
No.
You can get them in, but if you have to get them out fast, you can't, and it's a safety issue.
So if you're thinking about getting pogies, they're nice. They're great in the rain. They're great in the wind. But once it gets cold, you're going to want to go to something else. I haven't found them really useful. Has anybody here ever used them? I don't know what they're like.
I've thought about it, but I haven't broken down the bottom. So.
They're pretty cool. Like you have total access if you have this type of gearing system, like a brake and the thumb finger shifter. You have great access there. It works really, really well.
They do make them for drop bars as well.
Do they? Okay. But in terms of if I want to be really warm, I put on mitts. And the other thing I meant to bring them, if people ever have those little disposable hand warmers, those are the most awesome thing inside your mitt. What's great about them, there's two things that are great about them. One, they really work. So you just take it out, you sort of shake it, you throw it in your mitt, and your hand's going to stay warm for that trip. But when you're finished your work and you get on your bike to ride home, you put your hand in your mitt, frig, the mitt's like 100 degrees. It feels awesome. It's really kind of cool. When you're riding...
Can I interrupt quick? I saw there was a deal a week ago at Costco where you can get 40 of those hand warmers of pairs for like under 20 bucks. Just putting that out there.
Yeah. Is there such thing as a reusable one?
Yes, so
they're called electric dryers.
They're little small things, looks like an iPod.
I have those.
And you have those?
Electric dryers.
Yeah.
I have one at work, I have one at home. When it's really cold out, my ski gloves go on top of them and they stay that way and they're warm in the morning. And then when I get to work, if they're a little bit wet, say it was rain or something like that, then they go on the warmers at work. And then when it's time to go home again, they're also warm.
Okay, so these are little disposable warmers. They're not dry that you put in the mitt. So yeah, there's USB rechargeable ones. There's ones that you put in boiling water and you can, that sort of recharges them and you can use them. There's little ones that use sort of lighter fluid that you can apparently it doesn't spill. You can put them in any sort of position. But the little disposable ones they're inexpensive, like you said, and they're wonderful. And there's toe warmers as well, where the hand warmers have some bulk to them. There's little toe warmers with an adhesive side. Super cold days, you just put that on top of your sock, into the boot you go, and it makes a huge difference. Other thing with the mitts, even with a good mitt and my glove underneath, this is going to get cold. And if you think about that right from the start, you can sort of hide it in behind the brake, or you can duck it in behind, and you can keep the thumb a little bit warmer for your trip. A lot of the time, I'll take my thumb right out of that and put it in with my fingers, so to keep my hands really warm. So there's a couple little tricks with the mitt as well, just to keep warm, because you know this is going to get cold, and you're trying to protect that on your whole trip. So like I said, when I start out on my trip, you know, I know it's going to be really cold, so I'll be trying to hide my mitt and my thumb in here like this, and I'll tuck it in here behind this. I'll just hold different hand positions. If it gets really cold, then I just pull like that, and then I'm not going to be shifting gears anyways probably, so I just stuck it in here, and my hand stays warm. So again, there's all sorts of little tricks you'll figure out to stay warm. Anybody have questions on the clothing and stuff?
I've noticed that it's all really thin, like
Yep.
not wearing like
Well,
down or...
I don't like that. Like there's times where I'll throw on the big bulky down coat and away I'll go, but I've dressed like this forever and this really works for me. So like on today I wouldn't have put this on, but this and this would have worked. And then, you know, this will work to a certain degree, and then I know like there's another, my red hoodie will be the next one that goes on. That's going to keep me warm. It's a little bit thicker, but it's going to, I like this style. If you're the person that likes the one big coat and the raccoon hat over your helmet, go for it. Like again, it's what you get used to and what you're familiar with. You feel.
This lets you layer down too if you get too hot, right? So if you get too hot, you can take a layer off.
I never do that.
You never do that.
People, even when I trail run, I run in 3 layers, and people are in shorts and t-shirts, and I'm running in sort of this sort of stuff. And no, I don't tend to do that. But yeah, you can. And that's another. Have a knapsack or something is stuff in. It's supposed to be the advantage of layering is that you can sort of layer down as you get warm because you're going to be cold to start. Unfortunately, I don't do that. Yeah.
What kind of thought do you put into like what your base layer is made out of, or what kind of base layer do you think about?
Okay, I do put a lot of thought into it because I have one. This is my favorite. So if it's really cold, I put this one on. This is and this isn't your typical base layer. This is kind of like a hockey undershirt. So it's more of a sports type of one than a normal. But if I were just starting from scratch, I'd just make sure I'd have a merino wool one, or At MEC, there's a grade, there's a T1, T2, T3, where T1's the coolest, T2's medium, T3's the warmest. I'd have like a T3 warm one. In the wintertime, I'm going to put on something warm no matter what. So I'm not going to really worry about my base layer is going to be the warmest thing I have, and like for me, it's this one. So again, you get your favorite shirt. So I got 2 of them. When one's in the wash, I pull this one out. When they both stink, I still wear it because that's what I'm going to wear. Like, again, it's not a fashion show, and you know, if I don't get too close to people, it doesn't bother me that much. So, but yeah,
so basically, the materials. There's the synthetic one, just called Polartec, I think, and it's about half the price of merino, basically. And merino is a sheep that's from New Zealand, and it's more expensive. But it doesn't. It has antimicrobial properties naturally, so it doesn't.
It doesn't absorb the oils, yeah. What you're looking for, the description of it will be either synthetic or wool. They'll talk about wicking. They'll talk about, I've lost the other word, but the idea is the base layer takes the moisture from your skin and gets rid of it. So the fibers are a little bit different than a normal t-shirt. What happens is instead of a round fiber, it's a flat fiber because there's more surface area that allows stuff to evaporate. So they actually do work, and if that base layer is a wicking layer, you're good to go.
You don't want to wear cotton, for example. Mm-hmm. Cotton traps the moisture to your body, and that's what makes you cold.
Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, it's regarding clothes, but more specifically your body, because I was riding these couple of days, and I don't know how healthy it is when those big changes of temperature for your body. So I don't know how to handle that, especially on the hands. The other day I felt my fingers were gonna...
Your fingers were getting really cold?
Yeah, and then they were getting really hot, and then again cold when I got off, and I got into college, and yeah, my hands were hurting really bad. So I don't know how you handle this, if it's not so harmful to get so hot and then so cold, those changes of temperature, how bad are they?
I don't know the answer to that. I was wondering, did your hand get really hot because it was so cold that it was just trying to unthaw?
I never knew exactly what happened.
Was cold. Your hand was hot outside?
No, it was freezing. It was freezing. Then when I get into a warm place,
it's super hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it became super hot and it was hurting even worse.
So
yeah,
that's normal.
I don't.
That's normal for this. I don't know if you've been in Canada long, but
no.
So that's what happened is your hands will freeze, or not freeze, and then you come inside and your nose will do the same thing. And I don't know, it's just ever since I was a kid, you just come in and it's really hot, but it's normal.
So that's normal.
The important thing is don't get the fingers cold to start with. That's the real problem. You want to make sure that if your fingers are getting cold, they'll get so cold they'll start to get white. And some people actually have an issue where any cold is going to turn their fingers white. Your fingers are going to get super cold, as is, like you said, your nose, sometimes like the earlobes and your toes. Like be really careful of that stuff, because once they get cold and once you get a little bit of frostbite in your fingers, it gets worse the next time. So be really careful in keeping your fingers warm and keeping your toes warm, keeping the parts of your face really warm. If I'm really hot, I'm kind of happy about that. So I don't think there's an issue with going really cold, really hot, really cold, really, really hot. I think there is an issue with being really cold. So that's what you want to protect yourself against.
I would say like boots should be a bit big. You should be able to wiggle your toes. If it's too tight, then you're going to cut off circulation. So you want a size bigger. For my winter boots, they're always a bit bigger. And same, that's why I wear mitts. So you can wiggle your fingers. Yeah.
So the thing that keeps your fingers warm is the guy beside them. So you just sort of crunch them on here and your fingers, that'll help keep your hands warm. But again, the hand warmers, like even though I'm wearing a pair of gloves, a pair of good mitts, I'm being careful with my hands, I'm keeping my fingers together to warm them up. I'm still going to go to a little heat pack. I'm still going to be super careful with my hands because I just don't want them getting cold. And the same thing, again, the toes are a little bit more difficult, but yeah, the extra boots, because a little bit of air gives you a little bit of insulation, so that warms up, that keeps your feet a little bit warmer. And you can put on an extra pair of socks if you need to. And I really like these booties over the top. Even like plastic bags on your feet. People have done that a lot. So a liner sock, plastic bag, another sock to keep the bag in place, into your winter boot. and away you go. Really important to stay warm. You start getting cold, you put the bike away, say, hey, I can't ride in this. But you know, you get dressed right, and you can go out in anything as long as you're ready for it. At least in my mind. Well, there are. I'll explain when I don't. Okay. So other question on clothes, just let me know. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I change kind of my routes. So in the summertime, I'll take the bike path. I'll take a 10K detour. I'll just go. It doesn't matter in the summertime where you go. I'll usually take back roads. I try to stay as far away from traffic as I can in the summertime. In the wintertime, that totally changes. And I don't know if it's smart, and you can make comments on it or not. In the wintertime, the side streets and the bike path are ice. Like, they are really difficult to ride on. And I stay right away from them. I won't be on the bike path now for another 3 or 4 months, even with my studded tires. So in the summertime, I'll take the bike path, or I'll take Quebec to Queens to Coburn, over to, I don't know, Rideout, and then over to Upper Queens, and Upper Queen to Jelna, and Jelna to the back of Mac. So I'm all over the place. I really don't care. In the wintertime, I'll get on Oxford Street, maybe Quebec to Queen, to Coburn, to Hamilton, to Wellington, and I'll stay on Wellington all the way out. Because Wellington's going to be dry, or if it's wet, it's not going to be icy. And the more I can stay off ice, the more I can ride my bike. I have to be really careful, and I make sure that there's enough of a curb lane and off right to the curb that I can get in my normal riding spot. But that's the route I'm going to take, and that's the route I find is safest for me. Because if I get on that little side street, I'm going down, or it's just not going to be a comfortable ride. So if there's a big dump of snow, that's the day I don't ride. So the snow comes down, the plows haven't been out, even Wellington and Oxford Street are maybe, you know, just the tire tracks down the road. I'll put my bike away, I'll take the bus, or I'll run into work. It's just not worth it in those times. There are days that you're not going to be able to ride your bike. If I had to ride my bike, if I'm at work and it dumps a bunch of snow and I don't feel it's safe on the major roads, I'll get up on the sidewalk. You're not supposed to ride on the sidewalk, but again, I'm making the choice that's the safest for me, so I'm going to ride the route that makes is the safest for me. And I don't ever hesitate to, hey, I'm not supposed to ride my bike on the sidewalk. Like forget it. In the wintertime, there's times where you're going to have to be on the sidewalk. You're going to get into a situation where the road isn't safe, whether it's slippery, whether it's too tight because of snow piling up. Get up on the sidewalk. And look for some area where nobody's walked or nobody's ridden. That's the best snow to ride through. Where people have walked and they've created some icy footsteps and icy tire tracks, that's where you're going to have the problem where, like you say, you hit the chunk of snow. It's not only a chunk of snow, it's somebody's made a track through here with their bike and you're sort of in and out of it, and that's going to cause problems. Or the foot marks. So if you see fresh snow, aim for the fresh snow. That's the best stuff to ride through. That's what's going to keep you upright. But think about your route. So the main roads, people, if you want to stay off main roads, go for it. But in the wintertime, if you feel comfortable riding on like an Oxford Street or a Wellington or a Queen Street, or even like Dundas actually is a bad one because they have the parking lane, which gives you lots of room to go down. Go on that. When I ride, like Coburn Street has a bike path most of the way, and most of Wellington has that third lane that most people don't use. So I feel relatively safe in that. But I've searched those out, and you get to know your routes. If people want to talk about a route, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. But there are safer routes to take. And think about, you know, that extra K or that extra 2K, just going an extra 2 or 3 blocks one way or the other isn't going to bother you very much. When I ride in the summertime, it's Upper Queens. I come all the way this way, and I go all the way back to Upper Queens. Like that's the safe route for me. That's the one I know, so that's the one I take. Any questions on routes, or do people have an issue riding on the major streets, or what do you think about that? Yeah.
I've done high performance driver training for 30 years undercover policing, and I always come out of my driveway when it snows sideways. Okay. And I fishtail, stop, fishtail, stop, fishtail. Because I'm exploring, because my side street will be the worst.
Yes, for sure.
So the same thing I've been experimenting with my bike.
Okay.
When I was out on the ice, I was seeing how short I could stop with that. And
good point.
The only thing that I'm still struggling with is that the variables are they're more frequent.
Yes.
And I don't have 4 wheels, I've only got 2. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, I haven't fallen yet, but I'm slowly working up to it. I mean, I rode on sheer ice for for the last week or so.
Yeah.
But I was slow. I was always in a straight line.
And you had the studded tires.
And I had, yeah.
Yeah.
So my point is just, you know, when you're just learning, is to explore what it feels like.
Yeah, and one thing you'll find yourself doing is when you stop at a stop sign, you'll put your foot down, you'll be going, is this icy or not? Because you can't tell, like black ice is black ice. There's times where you know it's perfectly dry, this corner is safe to take, like just with a normal right-hand corner, and you come up and you take the right-hand corner, as that case I talked about before, the bike just disappears. You go like, where did the thing go? It just hits that ice and goes. So yeah, it's a good idea to sort of check those, check to see what sort of control you have on the bike. Yeah, so, and just be careful. The days you have to put the bike away, don't, you know, have that alternative or have that backup. Like I get the little bus tickets from Superstore and they're in my back pocket if I need to take the bus. I hate taking the bus because I can run there just about as fast as the bus gets me. And I don't want to run because I have a run tonight or I ran last night. So you bite the bullet and you look up the bus route before the night and you say, okay, if it's snowed, if it's got like 3 or 4 inches, I'm going to have to catch the 7:45 bus. And away.
But at least they all have bike racks now.
Yeah,
there was years where just like 5 out of all the buses had a bike rack and you had to just take your chances.
My problem is I've never used it. Once I get my bike out, I'm not putting it on a bus. If I ride to work, then I'm somehow going to manage to get home.
Yeah, you wouldn't?
But well, I should. But my decision is usually the night before that if I make the decision that, you know, if it looks iffy, then I'll just take the bus to work and bring it home. There's been times I've seen some really neat accidents riding my bike home on the days where it snows when you're at work. You're being super easy and you see all these cars turning sideways and Upper Queens, I forget the name of the street that's just south of Commissioners. It's just a beaut. I've seen I shouldn't have been on my bike, but because I took it to work, I'm riding it home. But yeah, most of the buses have that now. So if you do get stuck, you throw it on, and away you go. So you shouldn't worry too much about that. Like I say, I lose maybe 14 days or so, a couple weeks during the winter, where the snow comes down, bike stays at home, but by the next day, Oxford Street, Wellington, they've all cleared them off and they're bare. Hey, away I can go. Yeah.
Sorry, so I moved to Canada 8 years ago and I've never used those bus bike racks. How safe are they?
I use them all the time.
Yeah. So nothing gets
like it doesn't fall off, you mean?
No, stolen off the front of it. Can someone just run up and take it? Or
oh man.
Or could they?
I've heard of that happening. So
really?
Maybe just watch the bike.
God,
I always stay at the front of the bus when I do that with my bike.
Can you sort of lock it or?
No.
I've locked my bike. Not to itself, just lock the bike so you can't pedal it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
They can't take it off and start riding away.
I never even thought of that.
Neither did I. But yeah, it's probably a good idea. You sit at the front and
Sit at the front and watch your bike,
Yeah.
knowing that, and if it stops, maybe you just get up and you just kind of watch, and then the bus goes again.
It would take a minute. Like they wouldn't be as fast as if it would. Like they'd have to lean and get it and.
You'd see it happening.
You'd see,
I
yeah.
think the
But if they can start pedaling, they're gone.
Oh, it's true. Well.
Which is why I put my lock right on the rear wheel, and that's
Okay.
it. It goes on top. They can remove it, but
Yeah.
they're not stealing it.
I've never
Tackle them.
I've never used it, but I heard there was a YouTube somewhere on the city site or something how to use it, how to mount your stuff on it.
Yeah, it's very straightforward actually.
Yeah.
It's really easy.
Yeah, it's just a big clamp on the wheel basically. So
Most bus drivers are really good about it too. If they're not late on their route, they'll actually get out and show you if you've never used it before.
Safety on the bike.
Visibility.
Visibility
Lights
is
on,
so vest. Really important. Just get used to the throwing on a vest. It doesn't have to be a great one, but even during the daylight, the yellow really stands out. A lot of times, I've had people. If I'm wearing a vest, which I don't do all the time, I'm sorry to admit, but when I'm wearing a vest and I have my lights on, somebody will say to me the next day saying, I saw that vest way before I saw your lights. So the reflective stuff off the vest or just the color of it, people notice the vest. So
You wear that all year round?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like I like this one because there's a little bit more to it, but you can get the little air, like the really fine ones that are really, really light. My spouse bought me one of those I don't know what it is. It lights up and it flashes and it changes colors, and so I haven't had the nerve to wear that yet. I don't want to be that
Wear it to work.
It's not a fashion show.
Yeah, I know, that's why I don't wear it, because that's very fashionable. So, yeah, that's good. So, but as many lights as you can. So what I do with mine is I'll have a tail light here. I'll have a bunch of little lights. Did I put them out? I think I put them out. Depending on what I wear, whether it's a backpack, sometimes I'll have my cover on my backpack, so I can't put it there, so I'll put something on my helmet. But I'll usually have a couple little extra lights just sort of hanging around, especially at the back. Headlight, I've started using a headlamp. I really like the headlamp. One, it's really bright. Two, because it's so bright, I can actually see where I'm going. And if there's somebody coming out a side street, I just look right at them, and it makes it very obvious that I'm wearing a light. So it's a pretty bright light. That
You wear it on your head, you don't wear it on your helmet.
I wear it on my head. Yep, so this just fits. I'll just put it down at the back, and the helmet just goes on, and away I go. So I've started using that, and I do have like the little headlamps as well, but I really like the headlamp for the brightness and the fact most little lights are lights that, you know, for people to see you coming, they don't let you see where you're going. And a light to see where you're going can be quite expensive. Like those are $100 or $150 lights.
Well, you need at least probably about 400 lumens, or 350 lumens to actually see the ground in front of you when you're riding.
Yeah, not quite that much, but you're going to need
about 300. Yeah, 250 is pretty good. Yeah.
So I know Mac is not going to like me, but Amazon had this one for $30.
Yep.
I asked what the big honking battery was for. It's for like a car light. And then if you want to do exactly what you were talking about, like staring at them, people don't miss this.
Yeah.
And you can see actually his vest lighting up too.
So having a light like that or a light like this, having a really bright light in the wintertime really makes a lot of sense. It does it at any time, but even more so in the wintertime. And mainly because the other reason is because it's dark at 4:30 and it's dark at 7:30. So you're going to need a headlamp, or you're going to need some sort of nice bright light. You can do the same thing at the back. You can get super bright lights like that at the back. Or my sort of approach is I'm going to put 2 or 3 there, so they're not going to miss me. They're going to like, what the heck? Who's got a Christmas tree in the back of their car? Oh, it's Bill on his bike. So make yourself visible. You really want to make yourself visible. Yep.
I guess too, like the benefit of having it on your helmet is that you've got your helmet on you, no one's going to grab it off the bike. So I always buy cheap lights because I've lost so many lights and I can't afford to spend $100.
That's exactly why I did it, because I kept on having to go into the store and like, oh no, undo, this is taking 5 minutes now, and now I go, instead, grab my helmet back.
A lot of the bikes have quick release, but you're right, you just get out of the habit of doing that. And then one day that you don't do it, like I had somebody take my fender, like come on. Like,
or they take I've had the release taken, and then I've got the light, and I don't know if I can put it on anymore.
Then you come to Squeaky Wheel, they probably have a whole bunch stored around here someplace, and they help you out.
Just be careful where you place your light also. You don't want to be shining the light in a driver's face. They get pissed off. So point low.
Right.
Yeah.
So a light like we had here for $30, you can buy like a 250 lumen headlamp for anywhere between 25 and $35. I really like that, and in the wintertime I like to see where I'm going a little bit more than I do in the summertime. I shouldn't say that because I was riding my bike one time with a little headlamp. I couldn't see where I was going. I ended up with major destruction down my left-hand side. So it's important to know where you're going. So if you can, spend the money on a really, really good headlamp and a really, really good tail lamp, or get multiples. Another reason I like multiples is every once in a while mine malfunctions or it dies for whatever reason, and I've always got a backup to put there. Even they're called little turtle lights at Mech. They're like $3 or $4. They're just little wee lights that, believe it or not, you see those from a long ways away. So just having a couple in your bum pack or in your repair kit, you know, if something happens, you just pull those out and you got a backup. But so visibility is some sort of vest like this really, really does help, or your yellow coats or whatever those coats are. I like this, like my backpack isn't very colorful, but the rain cover is bright yellow. So if there's a day where it's getting a little bit dark and I'm not using my lights, I'll throw on my back cover, which is kind of this color, and people can see me. Reflective stuff on your pants, these don't have it, but I'm actually replacing these ones, and they do have all the reflective stuff. Reflective stuff really, really shows up. I don't know if you've really noticed it, but it really does help. Yeah.
We were doing clothing, I thought you got to goggles.
Okay.
Talk about goggles.
I've never worn them. My spouse wears them, and she looks really silly. But again, I shouldn't say things like that. And Andrew, another guy at MEC, wears the goggles, and they swear by them, that they find them super awesome. So ski goggles of some sort, I think is what you're talking about.
I obviously wear glasses, and I find my eyes tear up and stuff like that. So I have ski goggles and a ski helmet. So I wear my ski helmet in the winter and the goggles. It's just that the helmet pushes it down to my nose, and then I have a problem breathing. But after a few blocks, I'm panting so hard I can't use my nose anyways. Yeah. And
again, that's the personal preference thing. Like I've never had problems with my eyes, and that's where I took off my little balaclava. But if I get warm, if I get super cold around there, then this guy just comes up, and you actually breathe differently. So now you pull this up, and then you breathe up, and that keeps everything warm up in here. So that's what I use to keep, believe it or not, this area warm, and that tends to work for me. But yeah, if you're cold through here, and like cheeks get really cold too, so that's where I'm saying a little bit of Vaseline on the cheeks really helps, or on the edge of the nose. So that, believe it or not, will keep those a little bit warmer. But a set of ski goggles probably gives you better visibility than I would have without them. So you can get the ski goggles that'll actually brighten things up, so you probably have great visibility. And that's really important in winter, because you want to see those chunks of ice, and you want to see that surface as clearly as you can. So if it helps you and it keeps the glasses from fogging up, yeah, whatever works for you. Like I kind of joke about, this kind of looks really silly, but hey, it's like I look pretty silly too, standing around like this, but that's what works for me, and that's what keeps me safe. And I've 35 years since I started riding that silly bike, and I feel fairly fortunate, actually. So, and I like the idea. Like, I want to ride my bike, and I hope you guys do the same thing. Like, it's kind of who I am. I'm the guy who rides the bike. You get people. I worked at 3M for 30 years, and you get people still coming up to you going, "Well, what do you do when it rains?" "Right, you put on a raincoat." Like, what do you mean? What do you do when it rains? What do you do when it rains? It's just, you get into a routine, and you get really comfortable with it. And once you're into that routine, my sort of little motto is motion is medicine. And the more you can stay in motion, the healthier you're going to be. And one of my key things is riding the bike. So I don't want to get off in the winter. I want to stay in motion. I want to keep riding. And I've figured out my sort of formula to do it. And that's what you need. You need to experiment with it, know you can do it, stay safe, figure out what it is, and then just go for it. I think I've had a lot of fun riding in winter. There was one of my favorite rides home was it snowed during the day, and the 45-minute ride home became like a 3-hour ride home. And I was riding with a buddy, and so we were riding together, and we were both beat, and we ended up doing little like snow angels on some guy's front lawn on the street. We were so tired because we've been trying to get through the snow, because we're not going on the road, it's too dangerous, so we're slugging through stuff. And we just looked at it, we said, "Oh, we've had it," just down in the snow. And up on the bike again, and away you go. So I have a ball doing it. I hope you guys learn to do it as well. Any other questions? Have I missed anything on this stuff? Yeah.
I don't think you've missed anything. I just wanted to mention there's a couple of Facebook groups. One is from London, called London, Ontario Frostbite. And it's great for asking questions if you forget something that you've learned today, or we haven't covered something. There's a Bike Canucks is another one, and then there's a third one, which is an international one called, I think it's Winter Biking, Winter Cycling, and it's interesting to see what's going on around the world with snow right now. Yeah, people going through 3 feet of snow.
I really think the key is make it part of your routine, and if you do, as long as you're careful, as long as you're smart. In the evenings, you look and see, what's tomorrow going to be like, and what am I going to do tomorrow? How many layers? Do I take the bike? Don't I take the bike? What route am I going to take? What's going to be the safest? As long as you're smart about it and you set it up, like you can ride your bike for a lot of days in London, Ontario. So I really encourage you to do that. And to come in here and fix up your bike in the spring. Or donate it to these guys in the spring and you go get another bigger bike for next year.
No, you gotta come in here and fix your bike.
Yeah.
How do you feel is the behavior of the drivers during the winter time?
Yeah, well, during the winter is almost, you don't even have to say that. How do I find the drivers? I actually find like 95% of the drivers are good. But there's that 5% that just, you know, what were they thinking? Like you're driving down the road and some guy misses you by a foot. Like, what was he thinking? Did he not see me? If anything, I find drivers almost too courteous. Like one of my pet peeves is when I come up to a four-way stop.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I get to the four-way stop, like you see the car coming. I don't want to come to a complete stop because the worst thing is you come to a complete stop, you got to put down the foot. Now it's tougher to get going. So you see the car coming up. He's definitely ahead of you. So I just slow up because he's going to stop and go through. And he stops and and he's waving at you, and you're going, take your don't be courteous like that. You go. So I'll stand there, and what I do is I'll get off my bike, and you know he's in his car waving at you, and you don't even look at him. You're sort of looking like this, and then eventually the car goes, and you just shake your head and go behind it.
I actually pointed my feet, like I'm down already.
Yeah.
Just go.
Yeah. So that's probably my biggest pet peeve, and we've had some actual staring matches. Once it gets to like 2 or 3 minutes, then you look at each other and go, "No, you were there first. You go," and he's gone way through. But it's you have to stay on your toes all the time. You really, like even when they're courteous, even when they're driving right, you still have to be really, really careful. You get honked at. I've had, people don't believe this, but actually there was a guy riding behind me that actually heard it. So when I ride my road bike, I'm riding my road bike like this, a guy hit my watch. So he missed me by like half an inch. So he came by me and his rear view mirror clipped my watch. And you're thinking like what was that guy thinking? So I don't know if other people's experience. I'm finding drivers really good. I don't wear headphones. That's another thing for safety. I don't know if people wear headphones or not. I don't, because hearing is your best defense out there. And you hear the car slow up or you hear the car go out, and that just gives you a sense of comfort that they're doing it and that people can see you. But I ride really defensively. So if I'm coming up to an intersection, I'm braking. I'm expecting that guy to do something funny, hoping he doesn't, but if he does, I sort of know my bailout position. If I'm in the bike lane, I'm still riding, the middle to the right-hand side of the bike lane. I want to give them lots of room. On the other hand, if they're driving properly, I'm not going to sort of be courteous and say, okay, you go through. If I have the right of way, then I'm going to take the right of way, but I'm going to do it as carefully as I can. But I don't know how people found. 15 years ago, I found drivers really bad. Like London was not a great place to bike, 20 or 25 years ago. It's much nicer now. One, because the bike paths take you so much into so many different areas, and there are some. I don't know what London thinks about with their bike paths, where they take it for a block and then it disappears, and then another block, it's up again. But I probably had fewer issues with drivers in the last few years than I would have had like 15 or 20 years ago. They just seem to be more aware. Even though there's more cars on the road, I haven't had many issues with drivers, except that one guy in 100 who just was he just trying to buzz me, or was he just not observant, or he came really close to me and he didn't have to, which kind of bugs me. I'm also a bike tourer. I rode my bike out to Halifax last year and back, and I was, one of my trips, I took a trip, my route took me through the US and then into Canada. I was thinking, oh, I don't want to drive in the US, all those crazy drivers. Even anywhere I rode my bike, except Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia was the worst, but everywhere people were really courteous and they gave you the room, which I think people are getting more and more used to bikes. So hopefully
that's a nice little segue about touring. That's one of the topics I want to present somebody
on bike touring? Would you people be interested in having somebody come and talk about bike touring?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Talk about.
That's my homeless look. That's my trailer. I use a trailer instead of panniers. The trailer is throw on 30 pounds of my tent. No, well, I haven't done it in the winter. I probably wouldn't because it's a road bike. So if I did bike touring in the winter, I'd probably go with like a fat bike and some other sort of setup on it. But in the summertime, I just use a little, it's called a bob trailer, or a beast of burden trailer, a little one-wheeled trailer, which is really kind of cool. Throw all the camping gear in it and take off for 3 or 4 days or 30 or 40 days. Next year it's Vancouver, so it should be kind of fun. But so that's winter cycling. I encourage you to give it a try. I encourage you to be really safe, and if you don't think you're safe, put the bike away and maybe wait for a weekend and experiment. But play with it. It can be safe as long as you're comfortable with it. I'd encourage you to give it a try. It's like stay warm. Like that's the most important thing. Like, and nose, fingers, toes. Take care of those guys. You're probably going to be okay. Cool. Are we? I don't know how much time we've taken, but a little after 4 o'clock.
So, I don't know if you can talk forever if you want, but
no, I don't.
These people are.
That's about all I have to say.
If you have questions or anything you want to bring up, you're welcome to. Luis would like to say.
Yeah, I'd just like to say a few words if you.
Sure. Yeah,
thanks, Bill, for coming.
Yeah.
Do you want the mic?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just want to thank Phil for coming here, and also Trevor for organizing this. I think it was a great turnout too. And well, thank all of you for coming here and have this great event. I wrote out a few things so I don't forget. I don't know if you guys mentioned this in the beginning. I was kind of trying to, get some people that are wandering around.
Mention it anyway, so.
Yeah, so we are London Cycle Inc. and Squeaky Wheel is our main project, one of our main projects, bike co-op for the community. And what we want is really to help people to ride bikes in our city, and we want to make a city that is bike friendly. So we're really London Cycle Link. We want to link those few things, and really excited for next year. We have some projects and ideas going on. We have Bike for Newcomers. We have the bike co-op shop. We have our campaign with Bikes on Dundas to try and create a bike lane here all the way to downtown. We have the Yellow Bicycle book, which is a very nice Christmas gift if you're looking for one for kids. And it's actually, I know we have a few Brazilians here. We have, the book is from Brazil. It's called Bicicleta Amarela. I don't know if you guys heard about it. And I do have some copies in Portuguese if you're interested. And to support our work, our membership for the London Cycle Link is $20, and a membership for the co-op is also $20. If you get a joint membership, is $35. Anyway, it's here. What else? We really want to make this a hub, so we want this space. We want to make more workshops like those. I guess Trevor already has some ideas.
I have a few ideas, yeah,
in mind, but we really would like your feedback. So, sorry for the improvised sign-up sheet. I just made one. You can put your name, you can put your email if you don't get our newsletter yet and you want to get them. And if you have any suggestions for workshops, please just write them down, or any projects, anything that you think that might help London become a more bike-friendly city.
If you know a project you'd like to do.
Especially, who gives the idea is kind of the owner of the project,
so,
right? So we really want to make the space a hub for people to come here, fix their bikes, learn about things, help each other, discuss any problems, any challenges they're facing, and simply hang out. Would you like to say something?
How should I get a membership?
That's a very good question.
She's a planner.
You can do it online, or you can do it.
Yeah, we can do it online.
Through the website.
Through the website, and we have our, I don't think it's out, our Square system, but we have some Squeaky Wheel volunteers here that can help you with that. And just like one last thing. I'm really excited with the new group that we just had our annual general meeting last Thursday, and we elected our 5 new board members. And I just want to hands up of the board members that are here today. So we have.
And oh, she was a plant.
You see? Actually, she developed the sign up for memberships on the website. So yeah,
so she knew.
She knew. So yeah, I'm really excited. We have 8 board members, and 5 of them are here today, which shows that it's a really committed group of people. And I know that the other ones who are not here, they really had other stuff. Even our executive director, we just hired our first staff, and he's not here today, but he was here yesterday, setting up this nice space for us to have the workshop. So yeah, really excited for
today too. Huh? He was signed up.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to have a word with him.
So thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yes, and yeah.
We want to keep these free, but we're also going to ask for a donation if you would like to make a small donation today or for future workshops. We would like to keep them free, obviously, because it brings more people in the door. But we need to keep the lights on.
And I just like the biking. You were talking about making the biking community in London grow. Like the biking community in London is really kind of cool. I think. Like how many times have I had a flat on the side of the road where, like before it's fixed, you know, everybody's stopping, saying, "Hey, can I help you?" You know, I know I've helped some people where, you know, they're kind of stranded on the side of the bike path, so you stop and you change their tire and away you go. Like it's like, I don't know, like bike fixer man or something, and they're going, "Can I pay you?" And you go, "Forget it." Like everybody's helping everybody, and you know, the bigger the community gets, the more it works like that. I think so.
We want the space to be like open every day if you can get there, and just a place to come and hang out. We'll always try to have coffee and some treats and a place to sit down and chat. So we wanted to be a community space.
Nice.
If I can add something, we're always looking for more volunteers. This Tuesday, we're having our bi-weekly volunteer night. So just coming up this Tuesday, if anybody wants to try it out. You know, some of you might not feel comfortable or have spare money to donate, but we're always open to donating time as well.
What's expected of a volunteer? Like what sort of volunteer roles are there?
So it starts out really basic. You need no knowledge to start volunteering.
Just be here and help.
Yeah, just be here. There are seasoned mechanics who are here to help out, and they'll teach you how to do it. We work on a couple of programs that Luis mentioned. So like such as bikes for newcomers.
So the bikes for newcomers is going to be every Tuesday now. Okay?
Yeah. So do we know when that's starting?
We'll start it right away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
we'll be here every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9. And bikes for newcomers is we have a bunch of bikes, about 85 bikes or so, and it's for newcomers to Canada, mainly refugees and newcomers to Canada. So people who don't have bikes, don't have transportation. A lot of those families are from Syria and other war-torn countries who came here with nothing, and we're trying to help them out. So we use Tuesday nights to build those bikes and get them ready for those families. You're also free to bring your own bike here and do it, work on your bike here. We didn't do that before. We limited that to only newcomers' bikes on Tuesday nights, but I think we have space here that we can do to accommodate everything. So if you have your own bike you want to come on a Tuesday and work on it, you can. So we encourage you to come and help us out on Tuesdays for newcomers.
Yeah, so Tuesday is 6:30 to 9.
Is there a plan maybe to shift the opening times on Tuesdays a bit earlier? Because, for example, I want to volunteer now a little bit, but I'm coming from work around 5, but going home then.
You can start at 5 if you want.
But is there something here? But we're not.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
For sure.
I was talking with Dan yesterday, and he said he has the same problem. Sometimes he's coming home and then going to get ready again to leave the house.
Yeah, we can start early if people want. If we have people to open the doors, we're more than happy. Yeah.
It would be nice if we did it earlier that the people could come straight after work. That would be very cool.
And sorry, and just like for the Squeaky volunteers to give a hands up to, so we know some of the volunteers who are here. So those are the few of the regular volunteers. So yeah, part of the community here too. We had.
Could you go over when I could bring my bike in and get some help with the Squeaky Wheel volunteers?
Yeah, so Tuesday night, 6:30 to 9. And
maybe starting
at the same time as the
yes,
newcomers?
Exactly. Maybe Wednesday, 6:30 to 9, and Saturday, 1 to 4.
And this is on the website or Facebook?
It's on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and Google Maps, the hours are still not, the new ones are not updated, but I already sent the new information. They said that it might take a few days. So in Google, when you Google Squeaky Wheel, it still shows the old address and the old hours. But this will change in 1 or 2 days max. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions, comments, suggestions, ideas? Please, the sign up sheet, the improvised sign up sheet is over there, and leave your email addresses, suggestions, anything you want. Thank you.
And this is a new space for us. Yes, people who don't know, we just moved here. Okay, so
how many people went to the old address and weren't able to find a place? And drove around the block 3 times, and they're lucky that Trevor saw them.
In the dark. Sorry, guys.
My toes are freezing.
I think you got everybody here though. So.
Do you want people to vote still, since they're up on the wall? Or not?
Thank you, Bill.
Sure. Just came into my mind. I was asking Dan yesterday, but he said I should ask it today, and I just forgot it in the question round.
Yeah.
With the pressure of the tires, is it better in icy and snowy conditions to release a little bit of pressure?
On icy it is, on snowy it isn't.
Oh, shit.
Snowy you want to cut through it,